Going on, guys? Welcome back to the Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting with Cameron Selby, and we're going to be going over both of the Showdown slates for this weekend. Very excited, of course, conference championship weekend as we have here. So much to talk about. The slate that we're going to be looking at, of course, starting it off would be the Washington and Philly slate, and then the other slate is going to be KC versus Buffalo. Right now, if I check those lines, the Commanders and Eagles are 47.5 over under. The Eagles are 6.5 favorites, and then on the other side you have 47.5 again, and KC is a -1.5 favorite. So that game's a little bit closer lined. Should be a really good slate. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, kind of another mixed bag for this past weekend. Saturday didn't really go our way. Sunday, a lot more in our favor. Cashed on Sunday only lines, both our showdowns and all that good stuff. So hopefully we can just put it together and have one overall solid weekend. And I feel pretty good about two of these three slates. One of them that's going to be toughest is the one we're going to go over first, which is Philly Washington. It's part 3 in this matchup this year. Obviously, division rivals. Didn't think that either of these teams were going to be here. At the first part of the season, but obviously things have took a very big turn, and Washington is a very, very interesting story. One of the best rookie situations we've ever seen. So I'm just hoping for an exciting game for both of these games. But I'd say let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, we did pick, and I'll pull it up, but we did last week pick against both of these teams. So that didn't go our way, but hey, we didn't bet on it. We didn't, know what to expect. Washington came out and
Washington just played a perfect football game.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this score against one of the best teams in football. Just went off on them. It is a really, really cool story, like you said, with Jaden Daniels. We've been talking about him, since last year at this time for draft season and stuff. And I remember, not even joking, we were at the bowling alley, and I was like, hey, just so you know, Jaden Daniels is going number 2 overall. And that was like 3 months before draft even became a thing. We were even talking about it.
Drake May was basically the consensus number 2 in the class.
Yeah, and we were like, I was like, I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know why. I got this gut feeling. I like this guy. I didn't expect him to obviously take Washington to this point in the year. Like that wasn't foreshadowing like that. But it was a really cool turnaround to see. Dan Quinn has done a great job with this team, and Cowboys. I will say this. Cowboys fans should be really sad because both of their coordinators are doing really well from last year.
Yeah, both Kellen Moore, the OC, and Dan Quinn, the DC. That is who are in the NFC Championship game. And
playing against each other, yeah.
Out of 16 teams in the conference, 15 of them have at least made an appearance now in the NFC Championship game since 2010, which is only 14 years. There's 15 different teams. And, or I guess this would be the 15th year. Makes sense. And Dallas is the one that hasn't. And you had to go 14 more years back to even find their most recent appearance. So very bad things and times in Dallas for all fans everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's get into it. We'll stop this train of talking about the craziness that happens in Dallas. But looking at the guys that are on this team, you got to talk about the wide receivers first. Got Terry McLaurin. You got Zach Ertz, who's got a Q tag. We'll talk about that. Who am I missing? Nobody up here. Wow, look at that. Just these two guys, really. For money-wise. De'Ami Brown. Zacchaeus got a Q tag. Jamison Crowder might become the guy if Zacchaeus is out. I also know that they might play Luke McCaffrey if he is out, but I'd expect him to play in this game.
Right.
So.
Yeah, this team's pretty self-explanatory on who gets the ball. The problem is sometimes there's running backs that vulture touchdowns. Obviously, our showdown last week, we were like, we're just going to start off by fading the running backs and lo and behold, Brian Robinson Jr. goes optimal, scores 2 touchdowns, and it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then Austin Eckler still had a formidable game.
Right.
Didn't return on his price point, but back-to-back weeks with 4+ targets and the 50+ all-purpose yards, like you have to at least put them in consideration in all kinds of contests now because they're just basically 50-50, and it's PPR.
Yeah.
So, but Terry, obviously, as safe as they come, basically every game that Jaden goes off, he's scoring 1 or even 2 touchdowns. The problem is that Philly has been a tough matchup for him historically, and then this year, obviously, there was 2 matchups. The first one was a showdown, and we did a breakdown on that one. And one that we a little bit disagreed on was I was like, I don't trust Terry, and ended up just basically not being a factor, and it was a very non-offensive game. Obviously, very different situation now because Washington's caught fire once again, at least offensively. So he is in the pool, 9,400 steep price, but neither game he didn't eclipse 60 yards in either game against this team this year.
Yep. And he did have 17 points in that Week 16 game because he had that touchdown. So he is an option.
And a lot of that, they were playing from way behind. 2+ scores the entire game, came back and won, and Jaden threw for 4 touchdowns. So he had an incredible second half of the game. But Zacchaeus, I think that was his first game scoring 2 touchdowns, if I remember correctly.
I can pull it quick. I'll tell you. Yes.
Yeah. So that was his first of a couple of games in a row where he just got the most work and did well. And I think Jamison Crowder caught 2 balls for like 7 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I think that's right.
So obviously Jaden kind of just spreads the ball around regardless in tough matchups. But Zacchaeus now back-to-back weeks where he's just kind of he caught lightning in a bottle a little bit, and then now snap counts, targets are going down, and obviously didn't have a catch last week. We were on the Diame side of things, which was awesome, except for we didn't really play Diame at the end of the day, which sucked. But back-to-back games in the playoffs, all of a sudden, 89, 98 yards sitting, I think personal best both weeks each respectively, and then scoring a touchdown. He's been very strong, very solid, and I think he'll gain some ownership because I know he's getting a ton of snaps now. Obviously, he went 83% this past week, which is his season best, which is awesome to see in crunch time. But he is just surrounded by all the kickers, both of the tight ends. So it's a very interesting dynamic on how people are going to approach the 5K range this week.
Yeah, that was something we're going to have to go over is just like this range here. But the other guy, Zach Ertz, like you said, the tight end, he's got a Q tag next to his name. Ribs, didn't practice on Wednesday. I'm not sure if that's for maintenance, it's possible. If he's out, we will go down to a cheaper tight end. They have some, and they're going to be basically free on this slate. But at the same time, I might just say we go more wide receivers because you don't know with those other guys. I know Ben Sinnott actually had an injury also, so adding to it.
With Ertz, I don't anticipate there's any concern about him playing. Maybe he doesn't get the 90% of snaps that he could possibly have the upside for. But he's going to get targets. It's his whole team. It's the NFC Championship game. It's in Philly. The narratives there, the 18-26 showdown, he ended up becoming an optimal play at the very, very end of things because he caught a touchdown to salvage his day.
Right.
The other game, obviously, 1 catch for 12 yards. So he was not a factor in a game that was a very positive game script. So a little bit of high and low for him as well, in addition to Terry McLaurin. So, say what you want, but I think he'll probably be the lowest owned of the 5K range. So he's a very interesting pivot if you want to get off either kicker, De'Ami Brown, or even if you want to talk about Dallas Goedert, which we'll bring up in a second.
Yeah. So if he is out, it looks like Ben Sinnott is the one showing up as the guy that would probably
we're gonna
step in.
Click
he's $200, yeah,
and it'll just allow us to afford whatever we want. So.
Yep. So that's the receiving game. We just kind of we brushed over the running backs a little bit there. So
and one more name I wanted to bring up before we did move on to the other side was Jamison Crowder, 2,400, just because he did play 40% of the snaps, did catch a couple passes, and then he's had some games with 4 or 5 targets. There's not a ton of value on this slate. I don't know if we're going to go all the way down to the $1,000 range. I don't know if you need to, but this is probably the cap of the lowest I can comfortably go.
Right.
So I just want to mention him because if everybody does play, I think him having such a discrepancy in terms of snaps. Obviously, you mentioned Luke McCaffrey, but he only had 8 versus Jamison Crowder's 30 snaps.
Right.
So and then if Olamide Zacchaeus is out, obviously, I would think they would side with the vet more so than going with Luke McCaffrey out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other guy, of course, Jaden Daniels. We'll get to him, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But he's a guy that we have to get in our lines. The Phillies side. So it's a very interesting side because they don't throw the ball enough for it to really matter. And we're going to talk about, of course, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both 98 and 8,800. Kind of hard to get to because of that. Dallas Goedert, and then if you want to go down, Jahan Dotson, Grant Calcaterra, like wherever you want to go down at the bottom. But really, we know that the top 3 guys are the main guys we're going to want to talk about for pass catchers.
Yeah, pass catchers. I barely even want to include Jahan Dotson, but it's
right.
just You never know. Wild card game, he caught his first touchdown with the team.
Mm-hmm.
He at least plays snaps. I think last week he played about 68%
Mm-hmm.
or 62%.
62, yeah.
So he's over 50% in both playoff games. So he's on the field at least. Just throwing it out there, and then if nobody else down low even catches anything, and he catches a passer even two, then maybe it'll work out in some way, shape, or form if you nail the captain.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably would not even go that route. I more so am interested in Dallas Goedert because since he's been back, 4 catches in every single game. He's just been a steady presence. Caught a pass, obviously, very, very strong touchdown against Green Bay to not put the game out of reach, but really put it into almost certainty that Philly was going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, negative game script. They were up by a lot against the Rams as well, but still 4 for 56. He was the first target of the game, which was always nice to see. But 4 straight games, at least 9.5 points. Very safe floor to me, and neither wide receiver is really hitting their ceiling. So him being $4,000 cheaper than AJ and less than Devontae, but both of them have floors that I don't even know if he even has, which is pretty wild to think about.
Right. No, yeah. Like, look at A.J. Brown. He had 7 targets last week, but he only had 2 catches, 3.4, 2. And of course we know A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown will have big weeks. Against Washington last time, he had 23. The first time against Washington, he had 11.5. Like, we should expect better than this. I just don't know that they're going to try to get the ball to them when they're doing so well. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. And we know we're talking about Saquon Barkley, but on the other side of the field, Devontae Smith, he's had some good weeks. He had 6 for 8 for 51 against them. I don't know how to get to these guys. Basically,
it's
is what I'm
very
getting
interesting, and
That's what
I
other
think people are
players.
going to be not on them because of the floor games that they've just had, and you can't always rely on, hey, what have you done for me lately for guys? And on top of that, with Jalen Hurts dealing with an injury,
Right.
maybe there's less, hey, one read and then run, and he actually stays in the pocket for once and plays quarterback. But Devontae Smith has had some steady moments and was really coming on, and then back-to-back games where 1, negative game scripts, and then 2, just not really great quarterback play. Both games, I think Jalen Hurts had less than 70 passing yards late in the third quarter. And then obviously his passing prop today is for this week is 182 yards. So that's really hard to convince you to go double stack if you're even going to go one of those options.
Mm-hmm.
But Devontae Smith, for what it's worth, did catch every target that he's been thrown his way in the playoffs. A.J. Brown's really been one that's been struggling from a, chemistry perspective
Right.
and all that stuff. And on top of that, him being $1,000 more. A.J. Brown, we mentioned way back when in the first showdown with these two teams that he was our must play because of how much he's dominated on Sunday night game or primetime games, and then on top of that, Washington having a solid game log, and he just had an okay game. And then last time he had a whopping 15 targets, but that was also a lot of Kenny Pickett. More so than Jalen Hurts because that was when he went down with a concussion. So he had 8 for 97 in a score, which was awesome to see. He does have the upside for that. I'm not saying that he doesn't. But, it is not the best matchup, and it's just hard to trust Jalen Hurts at this point throwing the football.
Yeah, and we were talking about Jalen Hurts' injury. I wanted to add, because we didn't say this earlier when we were talking about Washington, but Quinyon Mitchell he didn't practice today, so I don't know what that means necessarily for him. He might be out this week, so that does help the Washington receivers a little bit. And
then for what it's worth, I think this was the first game, and I don't remember exactly how much he did play, but Darius Slay, he banged up his shoulder coming down with a interception. Or, no, he caught a pick, and then another time when he was diving for an interception, banged up his shoulder. And I don't know if he returned in the playoffs. I'm actually looking at the snap counts now. Oh, yeah, he played 100% last week. So he's fine. But Quinyon Mitchell, he left the game early, and he did not return.
Yeah.
So that one is truly worth monitoring because he has been the probably best rookie cornerback of everybody in the league this year, which
him or his teammate, one of the two.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, both of them were 2 of our 3 best DBs, and we were pretty much on the right side of things from a draft perspective.
Yep. But let's talk about some must plays and stuff. I mean, let's just talk about the one must play that you have to get to. You even wrote down, and it was a little bit of a joke before the show, but Cam wrote down on here the must play Saquon 11-6 don't pick for must play too easy, and I put him down anyways because I don't know who else to pick.
But I will also double down on it, and I don't care what the ownership is, or I don't care how chalky it'll be. He's not only a must play, but a must play at captain.
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed.
His total yardage prop is 147 yards.
Yeah.
That might be the most I've seen from a running back in a playoff game before. That's incredible. I mean, he's had about 390, or I'm sorry,
Pull him up.
what was the exact total? 348 all-purpose yards and 4 touchdowns
In the two games.
2 games that they played this year. Washington, if there is a weakness, it is the run game. Obviously, you saw Jahmyr Gibbs go for 38 last week. He was one that we were underweight to, and it bit us in the butt a little bit. And obviously, Saquon is in a more just he's all they got kind of role.
Yeah,
coming
for
off
sure.
a 200-yard performance. I don't know if you saw the clip of him before his 75-yard touchdown, kind of saying, "Watch this," to Jalen Hurts and then taking off. He's just got everything going in the right direction right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 35 touches in this game.
I think my favorite part about that video is Lane Johnson just walking off the field.
Yeah,
like, just like,
I'll see you over here.
yeah, I'm tired. Good job, proud of you. But yeah, no, Saquon is the must play on the slate. The other guy that we will talk about is Jaden Daniels as the other must play. He's just been so good recently that it's really hard to get away from him. He has the rushing upside that you want to see. Look at these 16 attempts, 13 attempts, 16 attempts. You just can't get away from that.
You got a 100-yard bonus upside in there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's as safe as they come, and he was our other quarterback that we ended up playing. Obviously, we were on Mahomes. They didn't really have the ball at all the second half, so that sucked. But Jaden Daniels obviously was as advertised, and even in a matchup where you thought Detroit would be, playing from ahead and stuff like that, it still didn't matter. Jaden smashed 25 fantasy points, and he was 1 yard short of the 300-yard bonus. So he's got 300-yard bonus upside. He's got 100-yard rushing upside and rushing touchdown, all that stuff. And he's probably the best quarterback if you can afford any on it. And we'll talk about main slate on another video if you guys wanted to check that out. But yeah, I just don't know how you can get off of him in this game.
For sure. And then the next guy. Oh, well, that's it. Just kidding. Sorry. No one else is a must play.
Yeah.
But our fades, we kind of went the same direction with these fades.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fading A.J. Brown because he's just been a dud recently. And, of course, he could catch one ball, go for 70, and score a touchdown. But it's just there's not a ton of volume in the way that, we need him to. At 9,800, you need something.
Right.
Anything.
Like, you need to flirt with 100 yards, and if your quarterback is he's not even
projected
for 200 yards, it's hard to even put that scenario into play. On top of that, Washington's been much better against the pass in recent weeks. Obviously, they 4 turnovers that Jared Goff had, and that doesn't include the Jameson Williams interception as well. So, yeah, they crushed last week from a pass game perspective. But, yeah, my opinion, I'm also kind of in a similar boat, like you said. Jalen Hurts is my fade, and it's mainly because he no longer has the ceiling unless he's got 2 rushing touchdowns. And he banged up his knee, and I don't care what injury report is going to say. He was heavily limping, and he didn't have a single rushing attempt after that injury. They had opportunities to do tush push, and they just opted against it for those very reasons. So if you don't have the multi-rushing touchdown upside, or the 100-yard bonus, 300-yard bonus, I just can't see the ceiling 30-point game, and so I'm just going to avoid that spot. And on top of that, the value is not strong down low, so I don't even know if it's necessary to go Saquon and both quarterbacks and then figure it out.
Right. And then for our contrarian plays, we've talked a lot about offense. We think that there's good offense in this game, but at the same time, Philly's defense has been playing really, really good recently, and they are, one of my contrarian play is Philly's defense. They are a reasonable price at 4,400 to get to, but the problem is they're hard to get to, and I don't think very many people have them because the lineup construction kind of makes you go with the Washington side of the game with more of your lineup, even knowing you might be picking Philly, because you're going to throw Saquon in there and then be like, who am I most comfortable with? Nobody. Right. So I think being with Philly's defense will make you build differently and naturally be more tournament-y.
No, I completely agree with that. And then if you are on the Washington side, kind of same rules apply because I think they're under 4,000 if I'm not mistaken.
40. Yeah, 3,600.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3,600. So very, very cheap. That's what we did last week with the Rams and the Philly showdown, which we were like, let's just keep on riding with the defense that's strong. And it sounds weird saying this, but other than the 3 breakaway plays that all resulted in touchdowns, they basically pitched a shutout, which was awesome. But again, those 3 plays they matter at the end of the day. But they still return. I think they finished with 8 fantasy points, which was awesome at that price. Don't mind that at all. And then with Washington, it's 47.5 point total. That's kind of like, seems like it's high. I'm kind of on this. This might turn under. I think our predictions both had exactly 44 points.
Yes.
So we are slightly to the under. So if you just think this will be some mistake kind of football game and jittery and the ball is going to be put on the ground on occasion, I think both defenses are for sure in play. My contrarian play, I think it's kind of a route and construction, like you said, with the Philly defense, and this really forces your hand, is going double tight end. And the main reason is because Dallas Goedert, like I mentioned, safe floor, 9.5 points in 4 straight games. Zach Ertz has been probably the least popular in that entire range. But going both of them, I don't think many people are going to do that because there are both kickers who, I think Jake Elliott's 5 of 6 has had double-digit points. Zane Gonzalez, obviously they're scoring tons of points, so he has opportunities to have really safe floor. And then also De'Ami Brown, who back-to-back games over 15 points. So doing both tight ends and then forcing, obviously, Jaden Daniels and Saquon Barkley, that really leaves you 2 spots. And I think it's a route that not many people are going to really go this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into building some lines. I am going to make you go first on this one. I'll go first on the next one. You get the harder slate.
Yay.
I know who's
That's always fun.
going at captain.
So, yeah, I'm trying to speed build real quick because I did not save this earlier.
Oh, okay.
But
Saquon.
Yeah, this is actually what I did. So, I went with Saquon and captain. Obviously, Jaden Daniels was my must play. And then I have Devontae Smith, kind of tournamenty because he's just kind of in a range by himself, 8,800. And then I put in Jake Elliott as a 5,000 play. Jamison Crowder in the event that he gets 3-4 targets. And then basically you have your choice between De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz. I sided with Zach Ertz to have less dupe line. But yeah, that's kind of the construction of what I thought of, which is kind of crazy, but it's a 3-3 build, and I think it's a really close game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with this. I actually was gonna see if you did something similar to me. It's really hard to get off of playing Jaden without Terry. I think that is going to make you different automatically. But at the same time, like if you put Saquon at cap and then you put Jaden in and you put Terry in, you're looking at a pretty rough price amount. Right. You know what I mean?
And easy pivots off of that. If you didn't want Devontae Smith and you just wanted $600 more for Terry, you can go down from Ertz to do double kicker. That's enough for Terry. Right. Or you can even do one of the defenses or somebody like Zacchaeus. The only thing is I'd probably side if in that 4K range in the mid would be what you said, which is Philly defense, but that doesn't make sense in a 4-2 build. So it's kind of one of those, like, you're really contradicting your own line doing one of those approaches.
Right, and that's why it's like, how do you get to, and I want to actually try to build a Philly defense. We put them in, and then we get, try to figure out how to build that line. I think it's actually easier than I'm making it out to be, because you can kind of do, I have an idea, but I'll throw mine in there. We're going to take this guy out, that guy. All right. I'm going to put Terry in. I wanted Terry in this line, especially if you didn't go with the Terry line. And then basically you come down, you can pick Zacchaeus, and you can
That's enough for
do whatever you want in this range.
Yeah.
I put Goddard in to get more Philly players because I am picking Philly to win, even knowing I think all the production comes from Saquon. That's why this is this way. But yeah, so this is an idea. I didn't love it. It is really hard to build on this slate, so I think that's going to make it more fun. I'll probably end up doing 3 lines instead of just a 1-liner in this game because it definitely makes more sense for how this game is built. But I wanted Terry in this line. I'm not sure that I love Zacchaeus and Crowder together.
That's what I was about to say. It's like, I'm fine with either, but I don't know if I can comfortably play both in the same line. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid build.
Yeah. And then, like I said, let's build a line where okay, so Saquon's going to go in the line.
Is there a single player that you would even consider as a captain other than him? I mean, the easy answer is obviously Jaden if you're talking about upside.
I
But
think if I'm going to play a high price captain, it's Saquon,
mhm.
and if I'm not, it's going to be a mid price captain
And who
like
who
Zach
makes you
Ertz,
feel the
De'Ami
best?
Brown.
Yeah, some really really low owned.
Yeah, some
Okay.
like so. If I go, what is this?
I think that's interesting because, like, for example, Diami, I think he'll be the most popular in the 5K at least.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think anybody's going to stomach playing him at captain. So if you wanted to get really different and you wanted to play him anyways, go in there, and that allows you to do a lot of fun things.
But it just depends, like, because I don't need any of these other guys. That's not really why I do it, you know? So that's kind of the problem is, like, if I go down, who do I want to get up to? What is that extra money
Well, you probably
for?
say Terry,
Well, yes. Okay, so
him.
add Terry,
and then you got
99. So I can get
Zacchaeus and any 5K guy,
Zane.
but that's a 4-2. Double kicker.
Yeah, these two. I could go. I mean, this would be what I would want to do, I guess.
Yeah.
But see, I'd rather have Saquon up
Yeah,
there and
I
just
know.
pay down. That's the thing. Like, it's just that's the problem with this slate. I think everybody will most likely just be like, Saquon's my captain, and that's okay because I agree with them.
Yeah, he might be about 90% owned, 35% at captain. I think probably 25 to 30, or not 30, but probably 25 will be Jaden, and then everything else is just kind of sprinkled less than 10%. But both of them projecting 21, or they're at least their over underline on PrizePicks,
Right.
21 and a half and 21 respectively.
So on RotoWire right now, they're projecting 26 fantasy points for Saquon
Darn.
and 20.7 for Jaden.
Okay. Yeah,
I will let you know though, Jalen Hurts has a higher projection than Jaden Daniels.
that's stupid.
It's so dumb. So
Yeah. And ownership wise too, which I don't think that'll even be close to the same.
no, yeah.
I bet you Jaden will probably be closer to 70, and I bet you
I-
45 to 50 take a chance on Hurts, maybe. And if not, then don't. The thing is
Yeah.
like, where else are you pivoting other than Jaden and Saquon? And I think even though we said that there's no value, there's enough flexibility to do 3 up top and
Right.
then 3 down low.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
that's just kind of one of those things.
Okay, I'm gonna put the Eagles in.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna go Goddard, Jake Elliott, and then I have 6,600 for Brian Austin.
Do you have a lean on either one?
No,
Well,
Brian, because who got the snaps? I think
It was 50-50.
Okay,
again.
well,
Yeah, again, it was 50, or actually Brian Robinson had 53 and Austin Eckler had 37, but they were also playing from 2 scores ahead in the
Right.
entire second half, which is obviously not what we expected. The game before that, when it was basically a back and forth game, kind of closer to what we would imagine this game script, it was true 50-50 split, and so it just kind of depends. Projection-wise, I bet you it's right about the same as well. 10.23 for Brian Robinson, 9.66 for Eckler. They're both kind of lower owned. Yeah, it's a coin flip.
There's no one though. See, that's the problem. Like trying to force somebody in, like the Eagles defense. Like there's some issues trying to get guys because now I have 5,800 apiece, and it's like, okay, who's at 5,800? Nobody.
Mhm.
I could go Diami, but I don't want to go with.
I mean, we could always leave salary on the table.
Yeah,
I don't
for
think
sure,
it's
for sure.
crazy to leave 1,000 on the board just because really it's Devontae Smith and then 2 Washington running backs that you don't know, and then it's all the way down to 5K. So there's like only 2 guys that you can even play within $3,000 of each other. So in that event, 50 or 1,200 on top of that, having the chalkiest captain, I don't mind leaving 1,000 on the table.
And then with this, I have a 4-2. My Eagles defense, I would actually probably side with Zach Ertz. He's a touchdown machine, man. But De'Ami Brown played really well recently. So I honestly don't have. Do you have a ranking? Like if you had to rank between the two, who would you put between Goddard, De'Ami, and Zach Ertz? Like how would you rank them? It's tough because like really on any of these you can basically buy them all.
Well, if we're saying projection wise, I would probably say that this is a negative regression game for De'Ami.
Mhm.
So I'll put Goddard at 1, and then De'Ami and Ertz are a coin flip, and so I'd probably side with Ertz because I know he'll be lower owned. That's my thinking on it.
So
but that doesn't mean I'm confident in that ranking.
Dallas Goddard and Diami are basically projected the same. Ertz is about 1.5 lower.
Hmm.
So, I mean, truly.
I bet you at the end of the day, and again, Roto doesn't do great exposures
Mhm.
for these kinds of slates, but I bet you Ertz will probably be 15 to 20.
Right.
Diami will probably be about 25 to 30, and then Goddard's probably right in the middle, probably low 20s, something along those lines.
Devontae Smith is projected more than A.J. Brown.
Fair.
Yeah. I just thought I'd put that out there. I thought it was an interesting
Yeah,
thing to see.
yeah, and that's a projection. That's not an ownership. Obviously, the ownership's going to AJ. But again, if you can get up there, either one of those are going to be lower owned to me than Terry. Which Terry, obviously, other than scoring a touchdown in the second game, both games he didn't really return value.
Mhm.
So it's just worth mentioning.
Yeah. All right. So that is the first.
And
first slate.
last thing before we do move on, do you have a prop that you like in this game?
Yeah, I'll switch over.
Because again, there is a free square for Jaden Daniels if you look on the screen, half a passing yard. I'm pretty sure it'll hit the over, so you might as well just click on it. Usually they do a $25 max for it, just extra bankroll in your buck. I can't even talk. But please just enter it with your line if you want to win some extra money.
Yeah, my pick, and he's on the screen, so I'll go first, is Jalen Hurts under 182.5. He's actually juiced to the under. And also,
you said it was like minus 114 at the very moment.
It's minus 114 for under 179.5, not 182.5.
Okay.
So
it'll probably be like 124.
even better, yeah. So it'll be even better, which is great. And then for yours,
mine contradicts that a little bit, but I think it's just kind of safer. It's Devontae Smith over 47.5 receiving yards. Again, what you mentioned, he's higher projected right now than AJ Brown. He's got lower totals, but he's hit this in 4 of the last 5 games that he's played. Obviously, only 4 targets a game each of the last 2, but maybe pump up a couple more targets in a more competitive game environment. Maybe Jalen Hurts isn't running 15 times. Again, because of his injury. So all those kinds of things, and for possibly are what we would hope for, because I think we're both picking Philly, but am I going out on a limb saying that we're rooting for Washington as a unit?
Oh, I'd love to see Washington win. We actually didn't do our game scripts, so we can do them real quick.
Yeah, so
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, we both had the same total at 44, but I went Philly 24-20. It just kind of comes down to they're just going to ride Saquon. Yeah. And I don't know if Washington can do enough to stop him.
Yeah, so I did 27-17. I just basically pretty close to what you had, just a 3-point swing on both sides. I just think Philly's the better team right now, and their defense has been really good, and that's also another reason why I'm looking at their defense as one of the teams or one of the tournament plays to get to, because it's hard to get away from play like when you're playing well. In multiple weeks when you're playing good, it's just like I want to get those teams, but can't forget Washington had 45 points last week. So
yeah. And it is not only that, it is also a little worrisome in my eyes that both of those games that obviously they were playing from ahead, and it's hard to just completely dominate for an entire 60 minutes.
Right.
But the way that they kind of struggled in the back half of both of those games, where Josh Jacobs started running all over them, despite them having their top 4 receivers out. In the Green Bay wildcard game, and then last week in the snow, Matthew Stafford was on one at the end, and it really came down to just them getting a timely sack and then it being a 4th and long. But they almost gave that game away themselves. Matthew Stafford ended up going for 300 yards, so just one of those nerve-wracking things that I guess on the back end, I would not bet this spread at 6.
No,
but I
still agree.
I think one way or the other, this can be, at the end of the game, just flip in the favor of what you expect.
I feel like this is one of those games where it's like Philly wins big or Washington wins close. That's what this game feels like to me. Like just an early thought of if Washington is playing well,
which
they've been playing well.
Really the 2 games that they played, both of them Philly was kind of in control, and Washington was trying to play catch up. One game they did not catch up all the way, and then the other game they did.
Right.
So that's kind of how it really comes down. But moving on, we're going to go the second game on that Sunday slate. This is going to be starting at 5 o'clock Central. It is another edition of the Buffalo Bills versus Kansas City Chiefs, probably the best rivalry in football from a playoff perspectives because they just seem to always meet each other. This is, I believe, the fourth matchup in the playoffs between these two teams since Allen and Mahomes have taken over. A lot of fun, a lot of excitement, really close total. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this one's a perfect one to just like look at historical data. When we talk about, Travis Kelce's done really well in the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. Well, using historical data, they have played all these times, and we know what they're going to, we kind of have an idea of how the playoffs go for these two teams when they play each other. Looking at the guys on the visitors, Buffalo will be the visitors. We're going to talk about the receivers. Shakur, Amari Cooper.
Sure.
Yeah, Keon Coleman, Kincaid, Curtis Samuel. That's kind of
this might be the funniest
just
wide receiver core matchup of any possible.
Give me Matt Collins.
Yeah, because at captain. Because you just can't trust anybody, and really, Khalil Shakir has been the one safety blanket, but he is also not playing a ton of snaps. He just catches all his targets underneath, and he gets you 12 points as a pretty safe floor a lot of the time. But he gets you 6 to 8 targets every single week. He's not going to score touchdowns for you, but he'll just keep on moving the chains and be safe. The thing is, he's 8,800.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you willing to spend up just for safe? That's the real question for him this week.
Yeah, I think that with him, I just feel like someone else is going to score a touchdown on this team, and then you're going to be like, damn, I wish I would have had that guy.
Right.
But at the same time, like you said, he is safe. If he's the one that scores the touchdown, we're really happy to have him on your team, of course. But Amari Cooper hasn't really done much. He's actually the second highest priced player, and he's got 4 duds in the last 5 games. So I'm going to be staying away, very, very far away. I almost made him my fade, but he's only 5,200. I didn't feel right about it.
He is a pure, tournament play if you want to go that route, because
yes.
I bet you he'll be less than 10% owned.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 5% because nobody's touching him, because he's not playing snaps, he's not getting targets, and he has 8 yards in 2 games in the playoffs. So he's just not being used, and it's just like, why'd you even trade for him then? Unless he's just truly not
good anymore.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, he's playing less than 40% of the snaps in both games, which are both. It was 5th on the team in the first game. Second game, Curtis Samuel had a couple of fewer snaps, but he's also getting more targets than him. So at the end of the day, he's probably my least desired Buffalo Bill based on price.
Price is terrible. I don't get it. I don't get why he's up there. Keon Coleman could fall into the end zone. That's what he does. That's all he does. So at least
he's playing snaps.
Well, yeah. He's running routes and wind sprints and stuff. He caught 1-on-1, but
consistency.
He could fall in the end zone. Yeah. That's the thing with him. He is a red zone threat. I really don't want to go that way because I do think that Josh Allen will continue to vulture everybody else's touchdowns by falling in the end zone himself.
Yeah, it looks like I guess I forgot he had a 2-point conversion in the wild card game.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, 1 catch for 5 yards in both games. But at least he plays, like I said, 60% of the snaps, are second on the team in both games. He actually played more snaps than Matt Collins this past week, which is a welcome sight. But once again, 2 negative game scripts for himself. Another tournament play worth mentioning. Yeah. All these guys are just tournament plays to me. Yeah,
sprinkle them if you're going to play a lot of lines. Dalton Kincaid, maybe less of a tournament play because
I don't know.
I don't
know because
he's only
it's crazy to see him 3,600. But at the end of the day, he just is not getting looks. He's not getting touches. But Kansas City has actually, been the team that you really target the middle of the field and tight ends and all that stuff. I mean, if you want to look at Dalton Schultz had a couple of chunk plays. We've had Isaiah Likely go for 100 yards way back when against the Chiefs. So there's been games throughout the year where they've allowed tight ends to thrive. Their first matchup, Dalton Kincaid missed because of an injury. Dawson Knox stepped right in, 4 catches for 40 yards. So if that is something that he can similarly do,
right,
he's going to return value at 3,600. So I don't mind him, but I don't have data to back it up because they just don't use anybody consistently in this offense.
Curtis Samuel, we just talked about him. He actually, I just want to bring up his game log real quick because he is only 3,000. These are reasonable for a $3,000 player. You see this? But you have Amari Cooper, and those are better stats by Curtis Samuel, and he's $2,200 cheaper. Just wanted to say that. I'm not done. Matt Collins, why not throw him up there? he
Sure.
could fall in the end zone. He's very much so just like a Keon Coleman type. So
Yeah, he's a
he's a
$2,000 player that's
really,
$4,200.
really good blocker.
Yeah, great blocker.
Doesn't matter. Well, he's only in the captain spot that price. That's why. One other guy, which I think you mentioned, but I want to put him on there because we're not done. Don't worry. Dawson Knox is the second string tight end. They play a ton though. So I don't really know if that's true.
He is second string, but both of the games he's outsnapped Alden Kincaid.
Yeah.
So had 61% in week 19, or the walkout round.
Yeah.
Last week in the divisional round against the Ravens, he had 57%. Obviously, it's only leading to 2 to 3 targets, but he is at least the cheapest bill for what it's worth to even go. Fortunately, because of all the inconsistencies, it's not like we have to spend up on a ton of guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. So just sprinkling a couple of these tournament-ish guys on both sides, I don't think you even need to go lower than this, but he's probably the floor in terms of my interest in price.
Yeah, he's just a better blocker. That's why, and he's 1,800. I'm sorry, guys. Put him at flex back center. He's 1,800. 1,600. So, yeah, he's super cheap. You could make that work. You could play double tight end with these guys. The reason he's on the field though is because he blocks better than Kincaid does. When they want a guy that can come in and block, that's who they put in. But
I wish one would wear a sleeve so I can know
which one. Yeah, it's very Raider-esque.
2 different times, or I guess both of his targets. I
Yeah.
either not jumped up and down, but I was like, ooh, we have a chance.
And it wasn't him.
It wasn't Dalton Kincaid. But fortunately, we weren't on him last week. We really hit on our tight ends, the ones that we targeted. But it just.
There was a lot of other stuff.
A lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs is the thing. But yeah, so he's in play at 1,600. Get some of him. That's all of them, I think. I think. You could always go down here to Morris if you want to, I guess. But we're not going to.
No.
So at the running back position, James Cook is 10-8, guys.
That's a tough price.
Especially when you have Ty Johnson and you have Ray Davis who were taking touches. Ray Davis scored the touchdown. He had 4 touches, but he scored the touchdown. I just want to bring up the snaps. 52% to James Cook, which is good. Ty Johnson got 34%. Ray Davis got 10%. So he had 6 snaps. He got 4 touches and 6 snaps and scored a touchdown. I'm just saying. So James Cook is hard to get to.
Yeah, and we brought up in the breakdown of the Ravens versus Bills how we were really interested if Ray Davis was going to play, but we didn't expect him to. He ended up being ruled active, and we were like, ooh. But then we liked the line enough to where it's like we're going to be fine with Tylan Wallace. He got 4 fantasy
points,
was fine. So that was fine. But Ray Davis scored a touchdown. You're like, there he is. So, but it is what it is. James Cook, 10-8, like I said, really, really tough price. Last time he did play the Chiefs, who they are number 1 against running backs fantasy points per game this year. He had 2 touchdowns, which really saved his day. But if you want to scroll down a little bit in his game log, in a game that really favored his script, I think it was week 11. Yeah, he had 9 carries for 20 yards, and then he had 5 catches for 7 yards. So very, very inefficient, less than 2 yards a touch. But he gets 20 fantasy points because he scores twice. I'm not going to bet on somebody scoring twice when you get about 50% of the snaps.
Right.
Really tough to get, and on top of that, Josh Allen's really kind of starting to inherit the tush push a little bit more now. So really tough to price point to get to, and I don't even know if you need to. But he's been very, very safe all year long as a play. So, he's worth mentioning. But again, I don't know if you need to go that high for Mr. James Cook.
Yeah, I'm not going to be getting to him, I don't think. 10-8's pretty steep. But his running mates here, Ty Johnson, is getting 34%. Yeah, 34% of the snaps. He is catching passes, so he is reasonable. He is only $3,400, right there in the same range as all your other guys that you were saying throw a dart at. Him and Ray Davis are in that same range. Ray Davis, though, I would love to see more snaps to be more comfortable.
Yeah, he's looked great when he's gotten the ball. He just doesn't touch it enough. Obviously, last week, 7.3 yards a touch, only had 4. But we've seen boom games from him. The one game that James Cook missed, he had 150 all-purpose yards way back when against the Jets on prime time.
Mm-hmm.
So and then he followed up another week with another touchdown and another 8-yard carry performance. But yeah, he's a very interesting running back. Just is in a committee essentially, so it's really tough to get to. But at least he's 2,400.
Yeah, he's not 10-8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely I actually side I think with Ty Johnson if I had to pick between the two because he gets the receiving snaps.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it is worth mentioning since Ray Davis, he's been kind of demoted to RB3. But at the same time, he had 4 carries and 6 total snaps, whereas Ty Johnson, he only had 6 touches on his 21 snaps.
Right.
So Ty Johnson is just a change of pace guy, but Ray Davis, they really prioritize getting him the ball when they do give him snaps. So if he gets up to something closer to the 20 to 30% that he was kind of flirting with in the back half of the year, find a way to get 8 touches, like that's going to be a massive return on value.
Oh yeah, 2,400, absolutely. So next we have the returning champs.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about the pass catchers. Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. I don't even know if I can talk about DeAndre Hopkins, but whatever, we'll put him in there.
Throw him in there.
Hollywood Brown, and then your slew of guys that they also have that are really cheap. Not against playing Noah Gray, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson loves cardio. Those guys down there. But these are the main guys we're going to talk about. Travis Kelce, $9,000. He is really good in the playoffs, and as you can see, even in Week 17 when they won for that number 1 spot, he's been good the last 2 times he's been on the field.
Yeah, he's only got 4 touchdowns this year, but 2 of them come in the last 2 games. I brought up in the showdown and the main slate how it's prime time, it's playoff time for Travis, and he's one of the best all time at performing. He's basically number 2 on every receiving statistic that you have, and he's just chasing Jerry at this point because he's got everything else locked up. But he's the safest guy. I can't believe he's only 9,000. I thought he was going to be above 10. So he's going to probably have a decent amount of ownership because of that. But yeah, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't target him.
$1,800 cheaper than James Cook. That's insane to me. And then you have your 3 receivers, Xavier Worthy being the most efficient. Then you have D-Hop, and I want to pull D-Hop up so we can get over with, but he has 0 for 1 in this last game. They're just not getting him the ball. He's not running enough routes. It's just...
Yeah, and also last game was really weird. Again, third quarter.
Yeah.
10-minute drive to start the 11-minute drive to start the second half for the Houston Texans. Then they score. Kansas City, I think they went 3 and out after that, and it's just like, well, we're dead. Based on all of our Kansas City exposure, because we had a bunch of, at least Marquise Brown. I took a dart throw on DeAndre because of the narrative and playoff and all that stuff. He just wasn't on the field a ton. Juju Smith-Schuster is getting more snaps than him, and I just don't understand it. Just, yeah, 6,200, I can't pay for him at all.
No, I agree.
But again, similar to Mark Cooper, who basically same problem, 2 past their prime receivers that are really good that they're just traded for this year and are not really using like they should. But he'll have low ownership. So if you're playing a bunch of lines, sure, get overweight, I guess.
What is overweight, though? What do you need for overweight?
I bet you 10% will get you there.
So I think it wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
So 2 lines, cool, out of 10, cool, all day long.
Yeah, that'd be way over. So, yeah, more so Marquise Brown is somebody that I'm siding with, 600 cheaper. At least he's on the field. Last week he had a very nice 45-yard catch that essentially did not end up catching it because the ball moved. And then very next play, Travis Kelce did the same exact yardage and all that stuff. And it's like, cool, but you're already doing it for us. We need you to start. And he ended up with an over. But it is welcoming that he did play 67% of the snaps, which only has a 2-game sample size in the regular season with Kansas City because of his injury in the preseason. But 67% is really very, very strong snap share. At least they get him the ball. We know we saw him, 15 targets in 2 games in limited snap counts. So 5,600 is pretty reasonable. And then on top of that, Maine, we'll talk about him a lot because of how much he opens up.
Yeah, there is a statistic that I want to bring up. We did just go through these 3 guys. We haven't talked about Xavier Worthy, but I wanted to bring up Patrick Mahomes' statistic of passing attempts this last week. So he had 25 attempts in prior weeks. If you just look, these are the numbers you're going to see more often than not, but 38, 41, 38, 37, 46, 37, you know what I mean? So we didn't get the floors from some of these guys because Patrick Mahomes, and like we said, they did not have the ball in the whole third quarter. They did not have the ball in the whole third quarter.
60-yard return and then a personal foul penalty. So they started the game in the red zone, went 3 and out, and then got a short field, And then also, like I said, had an 11-minute drive against them in the
that was
second half.
crazy.
So basically, so much time that he did not have the ball. It's not like he had a great game, but he just didn't have the opportunity to have the upside
Yeah.
that we typically see because obviously only have the ball 26 minutes, and a lot of that in the second half was just trying to run clock
Hmm.
and what have you. So obviously a rough game for him, but it's really easy to just click on his name when he's 10,000, and because everybody else being so cheap, it's really fun. Like you won't have any problem fitting both quarterbacks at the end of the day, and
No.
even putting in Travis Kelsey. So
But I just wanted to mention the 25 attempts because that did bring down Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins' chances. I mean, two targets, one target. Those are two of the top four guys on the team.
mhm.
Now, Xavier Worthy, he still had the targets. He had 6 targets in this game, 45 yards, one attempt for -8. That was a dumb play. I don't know if y'all watched it, but it was stupid. So he's at least getting the targets. He's a guy that 8,400. He's a really interesting price point for me, and possibly a fun pivot that you can get to. So
Yeah, I mean, he's the one that's getting a safe amount of snaps and targets as a combination. Obviously, he finishes the season really strong with a bunch of games with over 10 opportunities and then in limited fashion, but by far having the most, other than Travis Kelsey with 7 touches this past week. Maybe in a better, back and forth game, he can produce better. But yeah, 84, he's kind of on an island by himself. Other than Travis Kelsey being 600 more,
right.
but yeah, it just kind of depends on if you want to go the route of clicking 4 up top or having to choose between him and Travis Kelsey, which makes it a little tougher when he's the cheaper one.
Yeah, I actually have a fun question when we get to actual lines and we start building. But I want to, because like I have 2 lines and they're going to be very similar. But I want to hear your must plays for this one, or game script for this one. We can talk game
I mean,
script first.
I feel like the first two must plays were probably on both of our board, but I
Yeah.
go with Travis Kelsey just because 9,000. Again, I expected him and James Cook to basically be the same price, and people are going to be like, you have to choose one or the other. But then being 1,800 different, it's really easy to click on him, and so he's going to be popular. But I'm just going to click on his name and figure out other ways to get different.
Yeah, and then the other guy, Josh Allen. I mean, he's been willing this team, and he is, of course, going to find a way to fall in the end zone. So that's what he does. He's going to poach a touchdown from James Cook. That's why James Cook is my fade. The rushing game isn't really something we're going to be targeting on either side in this game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Fades wise, I think we both went running backs. We didn't talk about the Kansas City running back side of things, but Isaiah Pacheco is just not getting snaps.
No.
He's not getting touches. He's also inefficient. He's 6,600. There's a lot of people you can consider fades, but he is the truest fade to me because like his ceiling is like 10 points. And
Yeah.
that's because he gets in an inefficient 20 yards and he scores like Kareem Hunt's been doing. Obviously, he's vultured a couple of 1-yard touchdowns and he's getting more of the goal line looks. So it's like he's not getting any opportunity to do anything. He's obviously still ailing from his broken leg. So
Right.
I'm just not touching him at 66.
Yeah, and then talking about some game scripts. My game script is looking at I have KC winning, and I was really fighting with switching, actually, to the Bills, but I just couldn't do it. So I have them 27-24. Really wanted to flip my pick. Casey has found ways to win, though. So it's like, I just don't know. But no matter what, I want to build this line with a bunch of skill players. I have a higher projected total than you. So my projected total is more, at 27-24 at 51 total. That will hopefully help skill players perform in this game.
Yeah, I expect we both have a field goal difference. I'm picking Kansas City still as well. Just ended up saying that Kansas City is just going to win another one ugly and close. I actually don't expect a shootout. I expect more of a grinded out and just lower yardage total. Weather won't be as bad this week. It's going to be just like cold 30-degree weather, but nothing that's really going to affect the game. But I think it'll take a Superman-like game out of Josh Allen to get over that hump, and I just think he'll just play fine because he's always played fine in the playoffs or great. He just can't get over the hump, and he needs more to do so, and I just don't think that this is the year that they will.
That's fair. They don't have the same skill players that they need to probably do it, and that's part of the problem. But let's build a line. I can go first on this one because I have 2 lines, and I want to see which one you like more. First off, of course, but also let me grab Buffalo. Also, just kind of the ideas of the lines. So Josh Allen is going to be my captain. We are going to play Travis Kelce. We're going to play Patrick Mahomes, like we talked about. Now, I'm going to go down and grab the last guy that is going to be for sure in every line, and that is going to be Dalton Kincaid.
I love it.
Okay. Now, there's two options here. Okay. The first option is to go all the way down to Knox.
Oh,
and then
Worthy.
up to Worthy. Or, and I think you probably already know what I'm going to say, you can go off of Worthy. You can go to Marquise Brown and Keon. Which one of those do you have more love for?
I think there's more boom with this one.
Okay.
Obviously, I think Dawson Knox is one of those that he's just going to catch 2 passes, and it just depends on if it's an ugly game and everybody else is busting. If you have multiple guys with 0 catches, that are in the mid-tier pricing, that's what's going to help him pop more. But in a more, you're going with a 51-point total, which is obviously a higher than what the over-under is. So you're expecting more upside. So I'm going to ride with Hollywood Brown getting more usage. Keon Coleman, like you said, is the touchdown guy. So, but yeah, fun 3-3 build that you have right there.
Okay. And now it's your turn. Let's hear it.
All right. So I have kind of 2 different directions as well as like last second pieces, but it also involves the captain, which is tough. But first, I'm going to say Travis Kelce is this captain. I'm going to go both quarterbacks.
Okay.
I'm putting Xavier Worthy in. And then my last 2, I have Ray Davis and Dalton Kincaid. And obviously you can pick Matt Collins if you want, but I just prefer Ray Davis and possibly getting more touches because he's just really solid running back. The difference is, if you didn't like Ray Davis, is switching to Xavier Worthy at captain instead of Kelce, and then that has enough to where you can afford Curtis Samuel, which I think is another interesting way to go. It's not like I have more confidence in that because I do have more confidence that Kelce achieves his boom than Xavier Worthy.
Right.
But basically, is Curtis Samuel doing enough to kind of negate the difference, so to speak, in terms of the upside?
I think I'm more on the other side with Kelce at cap. Yeah. And, riding out the fact that he's just going to score enough to negate the rest of the bottom. Everything under 5,000, basically, he'll score enough to negate those things. So that's kind of why I would think that way. But, no, I like your line. I'm surprised you didn't go Hollywood at all. But I know that this is just a high and low, so because you have
it's a high and low. Obviously, Hollywood is somebody I want to get to. But it requires a balanced build that either you're going cheap captain or you're having to fade one of Kelce / Worthy, which is just a tough decision you have to make.
A lot of 3-3 builds that we're getting to, though, which is exactly what it should be. That's what kind of game we've got going on here, a 3-point game. 1.5 on the line. So, yeah, I'm excited about this game. This game's going to be awesome.
Let's build one real quick with a mid-tier captain. So, speaking of Hollywood Brown,
why not?
5,600 or 84 now at captain. Let's put that, both quarterbacks, and see. Obviously, I want Kelce in there too.
Yeah, but I think.
Ooh, almost.
That's reasonable.
No, yeah. We almost had enough for King.
Oh, why did I put Cook in? That's not what I meant to do.
Oh, that's
kind of messed stuff up.
But Ray Davis, similar guy.
Yeah. You could put Ray Davis in. You could get 2 mid-tier guys. Mm-hmm. Which would be, if there is anybody that you're comfortable with.
Let's see.
No. Okay. And I just don't like any of these guys. So, yeah, you just have to go up to one of these 2.
If you think Hunt's going to punch one in and then also have a couple catches, sure. I'd rather have him over the other 3 or the other 2.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think I'd side with doing that. I just always hate going low while also having a cheap captain. But, you get all of the guys with all the upside.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, you can get all 4, but you're not as comfortable with one of your pieces.
But
in again, the other one.
If you kind of side with something along my game script where I'm picking 2017, which is 4 touchdowns,
right,
and both quarterbacks are only going to get like 22, that means that they're not returning value on captain exposure. And say Travis Kelce only has 5 for 68, and maybe one of them scores, but they don't eclipse 20 points. Well, then Hollywood Brown getting 10, makes you feel a little better about that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, do you want to build any more, or do you want to go to PrizePicks and we'll do our last stuff?
No, I'd say let's jump to PrizePicks. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I actually prefer not prefer, but I'm more confident in that slate than I am the Philly and Washington slate,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
agreed. Okay, so yours is targets.
Yeah, mine's a vibes one. Can't back it up with data, but it's just kind of the matchup in which the way to attack Kansas City's defense, and Dalton Kincaid at 4.5 targets just seems very, very low. So I'm just banking on them being able to throw it into the dirt. I don't care. I just want the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. No, I completely get it. There was a ball that was thrown to the corner. What was it? Who were we doing? I don't know. It was I had a targets, and the route was like he had an option route, and he stopped early, and the ball was thrown like down the field, and I was like, "That's a target." The target.
He was trying.
I was like, "That's the one." And then I'm gonna do a receptions play. It's gonna be Travis Kelce. He's at 6.5 right now. And if we do believe, and also 3.5 for Hollywood Brown's not bad. But if we do believe that Kelsey's going to have such a good game, I think he'll have more than 6 targets. More than 6 targets. He has had that in the last 2 games. He's a playoff guy. Yeah. And so 6.5 targets, I think, against the Bills this time around, he will be able to do that. I'm actually going to pull up the stat muse on it if you have anything to talk about.
So, like the one thing I did want to say about the props, and I haven't looked as much at an underdog, and I know sometimes they're a little bit more favorable. So again, always shop your lines on what, and even if you have Yahoo or DraftKings Pick Six, like always shop whatever the best value is for your line to just make a couple 2, 3, 4 picks when you play. That's kind of how I do things, but it's a lot easier to obtain props on this game than it is Philly Washington because the guys that are expensive, like we're in love with Jaden Daniels and Saquon. Well, Saquon again, 148 all-purpose yards is his over/under.
Right.
Or Jaden Daniels having I think 270 yards, whatever it is. It's really hard to just click on that, and everything else is just gross. Well, this one, it's just as gross, but all the lines are low. So like Dalton Kincaid, only 31 yards. DeAndre Hopkins is like 20 yards. Marquise Brown is probably like 40 or 38 or something like that. So they're all, you can paint stories to where all of these guys can go to the over, but it's a lot easier to obtain. But the only thing I will say is just click on Jaden Daniels' free score at half a yard because that'll go over pretty easily.
Absolutely. Get the free money. And we hopefully, we're obviously picking guys on different sides of the ball, so it's easy to play. This would pay out at 2.25 if you did the 3, but possibly put one more in there that normally gives you a little bit better odds. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about? I could flip back over if I need to. I think
that about wraps it up on the Showdown slates.
Sweet. Let me stop sharing. And we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We're going to, of course, have a main slate for this weekend. That'll be coming up. That actually... we're recording them together, but we haven't decided which one goes out first normally. That one's probably going to go out first, so that'll actually already be out. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go watch it. And I'm excited for this weekend. We're almost to Super Bowl Sunday in a couple weeks, and then we start the draft. We got other things to talk about. Dustin's doing his the On3 board transfer portal stuff, and we're going to talk about some important guys that are moving in college football, NFL. We have free agency. We're going to talk about draft. All the things.
Yeah, it never ends. There's never not anything to talk about.
No,
Even if we don't, we can find some content to do it. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Are we doing a live stream this week, or are we gonna just?
We cannot. I'm sorry.
Cannot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I cannot.
He's a busy boy.
I am.
It's all good. We're running out of live streams though, so I guarantee you, I'm gonna make you do one Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes, that is
and that'll
fun.
probably be our last live stream for a good while. Obviously, we're going to be putting out content every single week, but there's a huge downtime for like a month-ish of football, and there's not really a ton to react to. And if there is, we'll throw a video out there. But live stream-wise, best ball is going to take a while to hop up. I know we'll do one for the draft, but there's really nothing to immediately break down and hang with for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So closing the door. Or this chapter of chapter 1 of this season. It's been a blast from my perspective. I know M's had a ball, so has Dusty. It's been awesome. We appreciate the community that we've developed so far, and I just can't wait to keep on just building and building and building.
Yeah, we'll also, if y'all have any ideas and things y'all want to see or want us to do, we're open to it. I mean, we have some free time and downtime when this season ends, so if you have anything that y'all are like, this is something that's pressing and we want to talk about this, if you want us to talk about a certain team, sure, why not? And also, I think we'll probably do a big board live stream So,
Okay,
yeah, I think that would be fun considering we don't have really any live streams set up. So why not
that's
do a
fine.
big board live stream? So we'll have some things that we'll throw in underneath and get talking about. But
Right.
we have a great time doing this, and we appreciate y'all being with us. So until next time.